given on May 12, 2017. The meeting will convene at 6:30 p.m. and visitors may obtain a request to be heard form from staff for any presentation they may have for the meeting. In accordance with policy, the request to be heard forms must be submitted to the secretary within the first 5 minutes of the board meeting in order to be heard at this meeting. Agenda items are subject to reordering at the discretion of the board president, so please attend the entire meeting to ensure you're able to hear any discussion. Pursuant to Section 84-1411 of the Nebraska statutes, the next meeting of the Board of Education of Douglas County School District 0001 and the Board of Educational Service Unit Number 19 will be held on Monday, June 5th, 2017 at 6 p.m. in the Board Meeting Room of the Teacher Administrative Center, 3215 Cumming Street. The agenda will be kept current and available for public inspection in the Office of the Secretary of the Board of Education at the Administrative Building during regular working hours. Pursuant to Section 84-1412 of the Nebraska statutes, the public is hereby informed that a current copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the Board Meeting Room on the north wall. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
And I would lead us with the vision and mission statement. The vision, every student, every day, prepared for success. And the mission, Omaha Public Schools prepares all students to excel in college, career, and life.
Mr. Ray, roll call, please.
Gadding.
Present.
Holman.
Present.
America.
Present.
Palermo.
Here.
Perlman.
Here.
Ryan.
Present.
Scanlon.
Present.
Snow.
Here.
Williams.
Present.
9 present.
All right, we will move on to our school spotlight and Mrs. Monique Farmer.
Good evening, Madam Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Evans. Our OPS Proud Spotlight tonight is on our 2017 Green Ribbon Award schools, Chandler View Elementary and Northwest High School. Across the country, Chandler View and Northwest High are among 45 schools being honored by the U.S. Department of Education for their innovative efforts to reduce environmental impact and utility costs, to improve health and wellness, and to ensure effective sustainability education. On July 19th, the schools will receive their awards in Washington, D.C. We salute Chandler View Elementary and Northwest High School for being environmental leaders in OPS, and I would now like to welcome Chandler View Principal Mr. Greg Eversole to the podium, and then we will hear from Northwest High School Principal, Mr. Tom Lee.
School Board President, and Mr. Evans, it's certainly a pleasure and a point of pride to be here. You know, the opportunity to be one of 45 across the country is pretty unique. Certainly proud to share it with Mr. Lee in Northwest with OPS, and I mean, to me it speaks to the programs and processes we have in place here at OPS. It's more than that. You stand out because of people. It's not about the programs and processes. They're the venue and the avenue, but our people stand out. And definitely a shout out to our students, our families, and our incredible staff who are passionate, poised, and ready each and every day to come with their energy and make activities like this real. So for all those in front, way to go. We are CV strong and OPS proud. Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite Principal Tom Lee to the podium.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm not going to take any time. I'm going to turn this over to the people who really put this program together and did a great job for Northwest High School. But what I will say before I leave, because I'm in public right now, and I'm going to tell you, this doesn't happen without the support of a great superintendent and a great school board. I commend you for the jobs you're doing, regardless of what the public has to say. You are doing a good job of keeping our district together, our schools together, and we appreciate that. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Peters and Mrs. Burns, who were really the ones who got this program going in the right direction.
My name is Rachel Burns. I am the environmental science and horticulture teacher at Northwest. I brought with me one of my most stellar students I've had since I've started 3 years ago. He's been in one of my classes every single year. We like to focus on a lot of environmental projects that are very hands-on and give back to the community. So we do a lot of service learning with the different organizations throughout the community as well as the university. Just one of the examples we did, we had a rain garden that we built last year. The students designed it, we put it in. It won the State Samsung Solve for Tomorrow Award, and it was actually just featured in National Geographic last semester, which was amazing. Do you want to say anything else, David?
Well, it was an honor to work on it. We got to work with UNO, had much help from the college students, presented our ideas in front of many important people, which was very exciting. To be honest, I was pretty scared, but almost everything I've ever been excited for, I was scared for at some point. The garden has been constructed. We're working on an addition to it right now, and I'm very excited to see what it will bring in the future.
I think Mr. Snow has a question.
Yes, actually, are those the students? But could I have you guys come up and, if you don't mind? There we go. If you can introduce yourself and tell us something about this project.
My name is Logan, and my favorite thing about the project is we grow a lot of our fruits and vegetables, and we are starting a community garden very soon.
Awesome.
My name is Daniel, and I really like how every classroom has recycle bins.
My name is Mackenzie, and I like about our school on how we're making it more efficient.
My name is Cooper, and I really like how we're working on our Energy Star.
My name is Elizabeth, and I really like how we are getting outside and working with nature.
My name is Luz, and I like how we get down and dirty and we help the earth.
Which is very true. I have dirt on me from the garden party that we had before Subaru Loves America. Grant
Awesome.
gave us some things, and they were there to plant tonight, so thank you.
Hi, I'm David again. You remember me. I like that we actually go out and do something instead of sitting in a classroom and having information dumped at us. Actually using what we've learned, actually gaining expertise and working with other people is a real experience and real education.
And I think Mr. Evans said that we would like to get a photo with our students and principals and teachers up here in front. And while we're arranging that, I just want to point out, as you mentioned, Principal Eversole, you were one of the 45 schools across the country named for this honor. And this isn't the first time we've had multiple schools honored. We've had at least one school honored as a Green Ribbon School every year for at least the past 4 years or so. I think that really is a testament to the people we have in OPS and to our students and to everyone being devoted to using our resources wisely and being more efficient together.
We'll have the students take one step forward so we can get some of the adults back. Or Chandler, do you students, is that better? Okay, big smile for the couple. I'm gonna take one more time. Big smile. Okay, perfect.
Mr. Evans, when you tweet that, can you challenge everybody in the room to retweet so we can get as many people in the community to know about that? It's awesome.
And I think Mrs. Godding had a comment as well.
Well, as our students are leaving, I just want to say thank you to the school administrators as well for helping to raise really responsible students in the environment. And so I'm looking forward to more recycling as they become older, and that's been an issue in Omaha. So I want to thank the schools for being a part of this.
Okay, we will move into board and superintendent communications. And first up is treasurer.
I'd like to submit for your review the April financial statements, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, seeing no questions, we'll move on to superintendent report.
Thank you, Madam President. Several things I wanted to mention. This time of year is busy for all the school board and staff, including myself, and just a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Thank you for board members. For example, we had P4K's 20th anniversary at Belvedere. Ms. Yo Williams was there, and a great opportunity to recognize 20 years of making a difference in the lives of kids through P4K. We also have a women's leader group that was led by Ms. Luann Godding to my left, and I had an opportunity to speak with her to a group of women's leaders in West O that are also making a difference in our community. And then on Friday night, last Friday night, Board President Merrick and I were able to spend the evening with Warren Buffett and several other people, but most importantly, 15 of the greatest teachers you could ever hope to be around, who were recognized by Mr. Buffett. And you can see pictures and bios in the Omaha World Herald, but just great to see them and to see the excitement for being recognized for the great work they do. And so great to be a part of those type of community events this time of year. Also wanted to mention a shout out and a thank you to Mr. Rob Dixon, our Director of Technology. He was asked to testify in Washington, D.C. on E-rate, which is one of the funding mechanisms that we use for our internet connectivity. And for our district, it's meant about $6 million of federal E-rate dollars that there's some conversation in D.C. about not using the formula like they currently do, which takes into account free and reduced lunch. And so he did have an opportunity to meet with the representatives of the FCC as well as with Senator Deb Fisher. So thank you, Mr. Dixon, for being up there for us on that. Also wanted to mention, if you saw the editorial in the World Herald about the MAP test, you may have noticed we are moving that direction as well, and have the state's going to do 3 through 8 MAP assessments. We're going to do K through 10, and it's going to be a conversation you're going to hear more about in the future. But I wanted you to know, if you saw that editorial article, we are in the process of shifting those gears as well. So I wanted you to be aware of that. And finally, I wanted to mention that on May 18th, I'll be presenting to the Learning Community Council regarding the programs that we do in conjunction with them. And in today's world, we don't seem to talk much about the learning community, but I'm handing out a document that we're going to talk about more in the future, and hopefully have a board presentation with members of the learning community that describes some of the benefits of the learning community that we don't always talk about, like early childhood programs that they're sponsoring at North and South Learning Center sites, as well as within our own district, like the Community Achievement Plan that has its focus on increasing attendance, increasing graduation rates, increasing kindergartners ready for school. So I wanted to hand that out and just prepare you for a future conversation with our learning community partners. And it is a partnership that does make a difference for us, so I wanted you to be aware of that. And lastly, I had shared with you that we had applied for a grant to send every kindergarten student in OPS, which is 65 elementary schools, a book pack filled with age-appropriate kindergarten books so that they'll have these prior to going into their first grade year. So I wanted to pass around, this is the backpack of books that they'll all be receiving. We're going to be doing a media presentation at one of our elementaries that Ms. Farmer's putting together, but it's just a neat way of putting materials in our students' hands. And we know that research says if students aren't engaged over the summer, if they're not reading, and this actually includes some activities that go with those, they're going to lose some ground. And so we want to find a way and continue to find ways to make up some ground. And in this case, we were able to do it through a grant, and it didn't cost the district any of our general fund, so another great opportunity for our kids. And with that, I'm through. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. We will move on to board member reports. Are there, Mrs. Godding?
So I have a number of things that I want to share with everyone. I had the opportunity to attend the DJ's Heroes Awards luncheon last week, and I just want to congratulate a couple of our students, one of them from Northwest, and I think the name is Pa. I know the first name is Pa, but I don't know how to pronounce the last name, B-W-A-I. So I just want to congratulate him. He received, I believe, a $10,000 scholarship through the Salvation Army, which was awesome. And then Nayabil Shutt from Central also received a $10,000 DJ's Heroes Award. So I just want to thank the folks in the community. Certainly want to thank David and Peggy Sokol for starting this scholarship, and David's always been a huge supporter of Omaha North, where he was a graduate. But want to thank them for remembering their son through this amazing scholarship program. Second, I was able to attend a very fun event at Burke High School where they were recognizing all of the students who scored a 30 or higher on the ACT the other morning, and the art department created a very cool t-shirt for the 30 plus students who got that. And since I was at that breakfast, they've added more students based on the test scores that came back. So they actually have 40 students there right now who have received a 30 or higher on the ACT. So congratulations to them, and Gay Lannon, who's in the audience, who will be next year's principal at Burke. So congratulations there. Next, I was able to attend a tour of Northwest High School. Just want to thank Tom Lee. If you get an opportunity to go out there and do that, great things happening, and the construction is really moving along, and so it's pretty fun to see change in layout and the creativity of staff and the architects and construction folks in designing all that. The last thing I want to share with you is I sit on the board for the Educators Health Alliance, and one of the items that came up in last week's meeting, and we meet maybe 6-7 or so times a year in Lincoln for a good part of the day, but one of the items that came up was an app that you can install on your phone. So I just want to make sure principals and teachers are aware of this app. It's called Amwell. I actually went and used it to try it out and see how it worked. What you do is, if you are ill and it's the evening and it's not a major illness, but you think you have a sinus infection or strep throat or something like that, you actually log into the app. They split the screen so you see the doctor and yourself, and then you share what your symptoms are, and they ask you questions. It costs $10 for that particular visit, and then they go ahead and call in your prescription to a pharmacy, which really was sweet. When I tried it, I thought, this is great. I'm going to use it for my college kids because they can't always get to the doctor. So if you're a principal out there, or if you're a staff member watching, I'd really recommend just looking into that, because it's a very inexpensive and quick way to maybe solve a smaller health issue. They're not going to diagnose major things or broken bones or anything like that. But Blue Cross Blue Shield, who is our carrier for the Educators Health Alliance, which Omaha Public Schools is a part of, is really encouraging folks to use that to solve those more simple health issues that come up. So I just wanted to share that publicly, because I think that's an important issue, and I think there were also some other things that got solved at that meeting, which have been a strain for some of our staff as far as dependents. And so there's been some changes that came about in the meeting, and I think that that will be helpful for staff as well. So wanted to share that. Thank you.
Ms. Williams.
Well, please bear with me. I have quite a bit today as well. So first, I'm very excited. Tomorrow is the Florence groundbreaking at 10 a.m. So if you can join me, I would love to see any of you there. Also, some other upcoming events that I want to say before we get to June. So I've been very honored to be the speaker at Central Benson and Blackburn graduations coming up. I know some of you are speaking as well, but very excited to speak to those students. And last but definitely not least, Mr. Evans, there was an article in the Sunday paper about I'm going to say my beloved Saratoga. As you can see, I'm wearing a shirt as this is the last year of Saratoga Elementary as an elementary school. So this is a shirt that Mr. Matt Pacoda, and this is for you, Mr. Evans. I'm wearing it proudly along with my little bear cub pen. I've been working with Saratoga for 7 years now. It's been my pleasure for the past 4.5 years to represent my bear cub. So I'll stand up and show you my shirt. I'm very proud of this, and I'm very proud of the staff there. There was an open house on Saturday. Ms. Utterback was there, Mr. Corner. I want to thank all of the former teachers, employees, and students of Saratoga Elementary for coming out and really kind of reliving what Saratoga means to them. But I really want to take a moment to honor those staff members that have been there. And some of these staff members have been in that building their entire career. But I find it very important. I have very personal and very deep relationships with this staff. They are amazing, like all of our staffs. But as you know, this is a very challenging year for them as they're leaving their home and they're being dispersed throughout this district. And I wanted to honor them by saying their names today. So if you bear with me for a moment. These are all of the last class Saratoga staff. We have Christy Davis, Rob Williamson, Audrey Lee Bates, Christy Fox, Tiffany Swank, Heather Morissette, Martha O'Connor, Lori Moore, Kristen Onis, Teresa Ellis, Melinda Knob, Stacy Bogard, Becky Main, Kathy Goodwin, Dunina Padilla, Michelle Moody, Janice Burris, Wendy Hess, Matt Pacoda, Sarah Peters, Credessa Barnes, Karen Jabins, Stephen Faulkner, Tatiana Eskridge, Jerry Whitmarsh, Colleen Connor, Emily Nolan, Lisa Lopez, Carolyn Holmes, Larry Morris, Susan Dixon Matsunami, Rhonda Peterson, Ernestine Young, Lucille Brown, Loretta Marion, Celeste Rowling, Melanie Simmons, Jessica Greco, Barbara Galt, Angela Seals Harris, Cynthia Sarks, Jeanette Alston, Teresa, I'm sorry, Miss Teresa, I'm gonna mess this up. Teresa Amuzovic, there we go. Teresa Amuzovic, Anthony Bultez, Curvis Williams, Roy Smith, Rebecca Ward Orsage, John Chavatel, and Michelle Gaither. These have been incredible staff that have kind of been through an emotional journey, but they've stuck it out. And as they shared with me on Saturday, they're sad to leave, but they are very honored to have had Mr. Matt Pacoda be their leader for this last year. They feel revived with his leadership and that they are ready to move on to a certain extent. You know, it's hard to leave your home, but they're open to going into the buildings across this great district. But we shared some tears and lots of stories, and I just really want to take that moment to acknowledge them and let them know that I care for them, not just as a board member, but a lot of these folks, again, are my friends. They live in my neighborhood. They mean something to me. And so I just wanted to honor the Saratoga staff today. And I wear this shirt today very proudly because I am a Saratoga Bear Cub. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scanlon?
I just wanted to congratulate again all the Buffett Award winners. There were 15 this year, and that's great. It's fantastic. One thing that I did notice when I was reading the article and looking at the teachers, it's not like they just had one great year. A lot of these teachers have been here 10, 15, 20 years, and this is the year that they get that recognition that, that is much deserved. And it just goes to show you, again, it wasn't just this one year that they had a great year. They've been teaching and affecting and, bettering our children every year that they've been in the district, and this is the year that they get to be in the spotlight, and just want to let them know congratulations. But also on that note, I want to let everybody that's taught my two daughters for the last number of years, I just want to say thank you publicly, because all the staff at Crestridge have been fantastic, and whether you get the honor to be recognized as one of 15 Buffett Award winning teachers this year, your time could be next year, the following year. It might not be when my child's in your classroom, but you still have done a great job helping me raise my child and educate my child. And a lot of that, I've learned so much with the fact that I can't take the credit and be like, well, I taught them that at home, because they're in this dual language program and I don't know a lick of Spanish. And so I know it's all being done at school, and I appreciate all the hard work that's put in by all the staff at Crestridge. And, congratulations to the Buffett Award winners, but we've got a lot of those fantastic teachers out there that might not have earned that honor this year, but they're still putting in hard days' work every day and making a big difference in not just my children's lives, but 52,000 students, and I want to thank every one of them.
Ms. Williams?
I just forgot to mention, I was going to raise this up and say, Mr. Evans, you forgot this wonderful article that was in Sunday's paper about Saratoga. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, make sure you read it, because it tells the history of Saratoga, and they deserve that honor and recognition.
Right. Anyone else? Otherwise, I have a list too. As Mr. Evans said, Friday night was the Buffett Award dinner that I was able to attend to represent our board, and it was just a wonderful experience honoring our 15 award winners and just listening to them tell stories about their classrooms and things they were doing and how they were engaging kids. And then it sounds like part of the event every year is they read some letters that were written about previous award winners. They don't say who they were about, but just about the type of things that people are writing about to nominate these teachers. And we always say there are phenomenal, wonderful things happening in our classrooms every day, and it's really true. And so I would echo what Mr. Scanlon said. If you've had a teacher or your child has had a teacher that you think is deserving of the award, watch for that information to come out next year so that you can nominate them to be part of that group. On Saturday, I was able to attend the school administrator's retirement event to honor some retirees that we have from the administrative level in our district this year, because we have a lot of people who have served our district for many years and have brought a lot of knowledge and service to our district, including Dr. Kerberg sitting in the back. I see you back there. And so it was a nice event to let them talk about their experiences and their career journeys and what their plans are after they retire. This morning, Dr. Holman and I were at the groundbreaking for the bond renovation and bond addition at Gilder Elementary. So it was really exciting to celebrate with those students all the wonderful work that's going to be done on their building over the next few months and year. And then because it is our last meeting in May, I also want to say congratulations to all of our students who are going to be graduating. We've got one ceremony this week and then ceremonies all of next week, it seems like. So we're going to have a lot of happy celebrations with students coming up over the rest of this month. Also, good luck to our athletes at State Track, specifically Bree, Ms. Williams' daughter, who will be competing, but good luck to all of our OPS athletes. And then I did want to take a moment to congratulate one of our board members, Mr. Vinny Palermo, on his recent election to the City Council to represent South Omaha. So we're going to be sad to see you leave, but we appreciate all the work that you've done during the time you've had with us. Any other board members have board reports? I will turn my microphone back on. If not, we'll move on to public comment. We have 7 speakers who have submitted request to speak forms. The board has adopted policy 8346, which provides public comment for a period of 1 hour. That same policy limits individual speakers to a maximum of 5 minutes. We ask that you respect that time limit, and Mr. Way will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining and when you have 30 seconds remaining. Given the number of speakers, we ask that to the extent you are able, you keep your comments brief so that we can hear from as many of you as possible in the allotted time. If you are in need of an interpreter, please let Mr. Ray know and one will be provided for you. We understand that people have strong feelings about the issues they come to speak about. We ask that you respect the opinions of all who speak and that you refrain from applause or other outbursts during the presentations. If the subject of your public comment is related to a particular student or staff member, we ask that you not mention the student or staff member by name and instead provide that information to Mr. Ray. He will assist us in looking into those types of specifics for you. If you do not get an opportunity to speak and would like to submit any written commentary, please provide it to Mr. Ray and he will make sure each member of the board gets a copy. And as a reminder, we do ask that you please spell your name and state your address before you begin your public comment. It is now 7:03 p.m. and our first speaker is Denise Hoskins.
Good evening. I am used to, I'm so sorry, I've been yelling all weekend at track meets Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'm used to talking to 21st graders, so bear with me, please. I am Denise Hoskins. I am an educator, 21 years. I'm a coach, and I am a mother of 3 sons that go to King Science and Technology Center. And I moved them there after they were at Miller Park Elementary School, which is dear to my heart. They have been very successful at Miller Park, and I wanted that to continue on. Miss Utterback was our principal at Miller Park, and the culture of our school was awesome, and they were very successful scholars at Miller Park. So I knew that moving them to King Science would be the best choice, and I am proud that they are Wildcats at King Science. One has moved on to Central High. He is a freshman, and he is in 4 honors classes, very successful. He is not running at state this next weekend, but that's okay. But he is doing great. I have an 8th grader, Abraham, also. I have lots of sons named Abraham. He's an honor student, National Honor Society, very active in sports, the music department. He's wonderful, and King Science has cultivated that. I'm missing the banquet right now to speak to you on behalf of Mrs. Buckner, the principal at King Science, and all that they have done for my family and for our community. My husband and I are coaches. He's worked at the Boys Club with the kids, and we are, I would say, everybody knows us in the community. And we always brag on how our kids have been successful in OPS at Miller Park and at King Science, and we always strive for them to keep going, stay in OPS, and go on to Central. But I also want to praise the leadership that has been at King Science. The assistant principal, Mrs. Emerson, Mr. Tran, our counselor, they're very caring, they're amazing people, and Mrs. Faber, amazing honors English teacher, the list goes on and on and on. And it's all about the culture at King Science. If Mrs. Buckner has not cultivated that beautiful place to be a great place for students to be successful, my sons wouldn't be where they're at right now. And I think it would be detrimental to change the face of King Science in any way. I was informed that there are some people that are not so happy with what's been going on there, and I think it would be just a travesty. Our neighborhood needs Mrs. Buckner and her committed staff that are truly there to make sure that all of the students are successful. The culture of your classroom and the culture of the building and principal and staff is very important, and my sons just love King Science. My 9th grader right now is trying to get together with his buddies from King Science to get together, and they're all at other different schools, South, Northwest, everywhere. But they built a relationship there, and it was because of the staff and because of the principal. So I'm just pleading that all of those kids in the community that's around King Science still get to feel the presence of her, how she is cultivating that great experience for them, and that all of the kids that go to King Science get that same experience that my kids have had. They are scholars, they are well-rounded, they love their experience there, and I think if we just move some things around, it might not be a good thing for
1 minute.
the community. Oh my goodness, I would never think that I'd talk that long. I am saddened that my youngest son only experienced 3 months there because of a tragedy in our family, but like his brothers did. But I would really appreciate that you would consider keeping Mrs. Buckner,
30 seconds.
the other administrators, counselors, everyone that has helped our family through our tragedy, to make sure that other kids have an experience like my other Abrahams. I have 3 Abrahams, 2 have experienced it. The other one, he's at JP Lord. He's doing well, but keep King Science just like it is. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you. Our second speaker is Eric Saviano.
Good evening. Thank you, President Merica. Thank you all for listening this evening, Superintendent Evans and the board. My name is Eric Saviano, and I am speaking for Nebraska Appleseed. You can spell my name ERIC SAVAIANO, and our organization's address is 9410 Street, Suite 920, Lincoln, Nebraska 68508. Nebraska Appleseed is a nonprofit legal advocacy organization that fights for justice and opportunity for all Nebraskans. I'm here today to comment on the community eligibility provision and the opportunity associated with it for the Omaha Public Schools. So this is an issue that we've advocated for years. The community eligibility provision is part of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010 and allows schools in high poverty areas to serve breakfasts and lunches to all students at no cost to them. CEP can help ensure that students do not go hungry, reduces stigma related to school feeding programs, eases administrative burdens for schools, and can save costs. To qualify to participate, schools must have over 40% of their schools identified on public assistance, so programs like ADC or SNAP or the Medicaid population. The higher a school's percentage of identified students, the better reimbursement rate they can get for their meals served. In 2014, the OPS board instructed administrators to initiate a pilot that it resulted in 6 schools taking up the program. 43 OPS schools were eligible to participate at that time, and I just learned that Saratoga, one of the 6 schools that will be closing, it sounds like, is one of those 6 schools that were part of the pilot. So this year, due to a change brought on by Nebraska Department of Education's, their efforts to improve data collection methods, that number of eligible schools and the eligibility numbers themselves have gone up significantly. Now 67 schools are eligible to participate, and of those schools, at least 26 are eligible at the full reimbursement rate for their identified students. You'll find a list of those on the second page of my handout. In other words, these 26 schools, all meals would be served to students at cost, and the cost for this would be fully covered by the federal government reimbursement rate. So it is important to note that with the take-up of CEP, there are administrative changes that take place that Ms. Knoke for sure is very familiar with. Participating schools must stop collecting applications for free and reduced price meals. And that makes the administration of meals a little easier, but schools no longer have to treat students differently or collect the fees from the parents. So at the same rate, no longer collecting those applications changed calculations of poverty for lots of programs, E-rate, Title I, TIOSA included. So related to that, TIOSA specifically, We recently passed legislation in Nebraska to address any shortfalls that result from CEP. It's our understanding that TIOSA funding and OPS would remain stable if this option were taken. However, we think a full comprehensive analysis would be the correct step at this time to judge whether or not it's a correct option for your district. It's important to note that the time to take up CEP is short. The federal administration has only allowed through June 30th to take up any more schools this year. So, as I said, with more concerted effort and additional analysis, we hope you can make the decision to move forward with CEP for your students. It would also remove a barrier for OPS in terms of unpaid meal debts at any of the schools that take those up, which is a pretty hot topic in the nation right now. So for these reasons, I urge the board to analyze the effects of CEP on the poverty allowance and consider moving forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next public speaker is Timothy Simeone.
Yes, sir. For anybody that wants. All right, so my name is Tim Simeone. This is outside the regular speeches I do, so I'm going to be looking at my notes in order to stay on time. Do I have to give my address? Okay, so I live at 14108 Sprague Street, 68164. I have two boys that will be in 4th grade and kindergarten at Fullerton in the fall. First, thanks for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I want to discuss concerns to be considered at your by the board during the upcoming bond workshop. Okay, so this is my first time speaking to this board or for any public board for that matter. In general, I have confidence in board directors to develop a competent board. In particular, I've always had confidence in the OPS school board and thought they do an extremely fine job directing the education of our children. And in full disclosure, because of that faith, I haven't paid much attention to the board's actions over the years. Okay. That is until recently, and this has everything to do with the age of my children. Okay. For them, my concern for the new schools that that the land is being acquired for is paramount. I'm not an accountant, I'm not a politician, I'm not a lawyer, but I am a scientist. I run a research lab at a school down the street I write federal grants for. I get it funded by the federal government. So I do have experience with using taxpayer money. But in doing that, I like to make decisions based on numbers. Okay, so today I spent a few hours trying to understand the last bond measure, which again I didn't really pay attention to that much until now. After a while, I decided just to follow the money and see where the fund allocation fell between the districts. I created two graphs that you have before you. So these graphs on the left these numbers come from last month's PDF from the CBOC. I forget what those letters stand for. These are the original project budget from the original project budget lines. On the left, it's the total budgets per district. On the right, I just normalized it to the number of schools, so it's just the left graphs divided by the numbers in the parentheses on the right graph. Okay. The dashed lines are where it delineate with or without the land acquisition for the future new schools. Okay, so obviously I'm in District 5, so I'm in the light blue. And then the other districts also have the land acquisitions. So with these graphs, you can see that there's a wide variation of where the money is going. In particular for District 5, on top of, there was about $12.5 million budgeted for acquiring the land. It came in, and it was cut by $3 million. And then, because of the good stewardship of the board, that was further saved another $1 million, right? So in fact, that blue line should be $4 million lower. Right? And again, that would be also on the right graph. So at the same time, with the new high school, the new lands for the South High School, that's $6 million over budget for land acquisition. So that bar would move higher. And
1 minute.
okay, I'm gonna skip the graphs and go right to what I want to say here. Okay, so what's clear on both graphs is a disparity of fund allocation. Of course, I'm interested in District 5, which, if it wasn't for the land acquisition money, would have the second lowest amount of money infusion. The reason for this disparity on the district basic is opaque at best and could make dozens of speculation, but the one interpretation for my district,
30
District
seconds.
5, that I hope is true is that the relatively low funding in the last bond was a compromise to get the funds in this coming bond measure for the school. District 5 pays a lot of property taxes that fund the OPS schools. On top of that, many people directly donate time and additional money to the OPS schools. We understand that other districts may need more help and funds, and we have to support this in general. However, we have not invested so much into our kids' elementary and middle school education to now send them to overcrowded high schools with overburdened
That's time.
teachers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is Robert Miller.
Good evening, Robert Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R. I reside at 7301 North 107th Avenue in Omaha, 68122. Good evening, and thanks for giving me the time to address the Board of Education. I come speaking as the Vice President of the Omaha Education Association, and I want to thank you for allowing OPS staff to take part in a recent event that the Omaha Education Association held back in April. A bit of background history. The Nebraska State Education Association, which is the OEA State Association, has a fund called the Children's Fund. This fund is made possible from donations and/or contributions from individuals across the state. NSCA members recognize that many students in our schools are struggling. Some live without the basic necessities of food, clothing, and shelter, despite the availability of social assistance programs. The Children's Fund was established in 1994 to fulfill modest and immediate needs of these students that our members encounter daily in their workplaces. Funds are available to NSCA members who might otherwise reach into their own pocket to buy a warm coat or a new pair of shoes. The fund works to ensure the physical and social and emotional needs of students do not stand in the way of their success in school. It allows them to be successful in their daily work. A personal story, I have used this fund many times. I simply see a need a student has, check with the parents to see their comfort level and their willingness to be helped out, and make a phone call to the NSCA, answer 3 to 5 questions, and a voucher is sent my way for that family. I give the needed voucher to the parent, and the students get their shoes, winter coat, glasses. It is that simple. This year I utilized it for a pair of glasses for one of my students. This year, the NSCA is celebrating their sesquicentennial, 150 years of working for teachers and students in the field of education. The NSCA set a goal for $150,000 being donated to the Children's Fund. In April, OEA proposed a possible Jeans Week to all schools in OPS, where anyone who participated would donate $5 to the NSCA Children's Fund. The funds were collected by OEA's ARs, and OEA turned all funds over to NSCA. I wanted to let you know of how much money that was raised by the staff of OPS through the Jeans Week event. We collected $7,249 that was turned into the Children's Fund. Though NSCA is halfway to their goal, the OEA was proud to have donated what we collected through the Jeans Week. It is my hope that next year we are able to host a Jeans Week one time per semester to replenish the funds that our students, OPS students, benefit from. Again, thank you for allowing this event to take place.
And thank you. Next up is Gina Miller.
Can I close this?
Good evening. Gina Miller, 4511 North 167th Street, Omaha, Nebraska. As we all wrap up a very stressful year, I would like the board to think about a few things before you continue to move forward. One, yourself. Do you have the right focus to be sitting in those seats? Why did you run for your office? Have your actions to date honored the promises you made to your constituents? Have your actions increased student achievement for all students of our district? Can each of you say that you have been a champion for your individual subdistricts the way Mrs. Godding has been for hers? Can you work to further your individual district's needs all at the same time as moving the district forward as a whole? Two, board leadership. Do we have the right board leadership we need to lead us through a new superintendent search, to lead this complicated district and this board that is in a bit of a tailspin into the future? If so, great. If not, let us be honest and open and address it. Number three, priorities. Have you and Mr. Evans set the right priorities? Do you have a clear, unified vision of what your individual and collective roles should be as board members? Do you have a clear and unified vision of what your individual and collective qualifications are for a new superintendent? Do you have a clear and unified vision of what your roles as board members should be supervising a new superintendent? In my view, these questions and the lack of answers to these questions is what continues to put OPS on the front page in a negative light. And having discussions in Lincoln at the Department of Education and at the legislature about the future of this district. In the last few weeks, we have been given a brief view into text exchanges between board members during the superintendent search and the extension of Mr. Evans' contract. It is very concerning to me that messages show that it was known at least by a few of the board members that there were discussions with Mr. Evans about his possible agreement to stay on prior to notifying the candidates that the board was split. Did the information in regards to Mr. Evans staying impact the accountability committee's actions in regards to the final candidates? And when sharing with the public what happened with the final candidates, why was this information not shared with the public? It is very concerning to me that at the April 17th board meeting, after multiple people asked if anyone knew if Mr. Evans would consider staying, there was no acknowledgement from anyone on the board or the president of the board that there had been information shared that Mr. Evans would possibly consider staying if the board so desired. I have seen the priorities released by the district the media has shared for the upcoming year, a new bond, busing, a new grading scale. The paper did not list the entire list, just highlighted those that I mentioned. I did not see any specific actions in regards to a specific student achievement plan. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have something like 80 to 85 schools in OPS. If I remember correctly, I think there's 25 to 30 schools possibly on the Nebraska Department of Education needs improvement list. Our third grade reading proficiency rates are around 72% according to the Nebraska Department of Education. Once you break that down by race though, we find out that our white kids are 84% proficient, but our Black and African American kids are 60% proficient. 40% of our Black and African American kids are not reading at grade level. We have a reading retention bill very close to passing in Lincoln. A retention bill. These senators are tired of waiting for individual school districts to focus on reading deficits and the lack of real substantive interventions. They are tired of hearing that parents didn't know their kids were not at grade level until it was too late. They are tired of hearing from colleges that kids coming to them are underprepared. They are tired of hearing from parents that they have asked their child to be retained, but the school keeps promoting them. They are tired of having our jails filled with children who can't read. Although in my opinion, there are some very concerning issues with this bill, the interventions that are laid out for the most part are very good. I would encourage each of you to review them and have discussions how they can implement it in OPS before they are forced upon us. I'm afraid that some of you may have lost your way. You have lost your focus on what the duty is to do what is the best for our kids, each and every individual child, and
30
instead
seconds.
you have started to protect yourselves in a broken system. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of amazing things happening in this district, a lot.
Unfortunately, we never can be OPS proud until we can be proud of all of our schools, all of our kids are achieving and being treated equally, until all of our parents are being heard. We don't have to agree on everything, but we do have to keep a laser focus on achievement for all kids. Let us please not lose our focus and think about what you're about to do going forward into the summer. Thank you. Here is LB 651. I would really appreciate if you guys could take a look at it.
All right, thank you. And just to let you know, our legislative committee is monitoring and keeping track of LB 651 as well. Our next speakers are Tina Lucky and Deontay Henderson.
Hi, my name is Tina Lucky. This is my son, Deontay Henderson. We live at 3310 Franklin Street. My daughter didn't get here in time, but she lives with me. We're speaking on behalf of King Science Center today, Ms. Buckner and Ms. Emerson. I want to let y'all know what a wonderful job they do for the children at King Science. When me and my children moved back to Omaha back in 2012, I was very worried about the school that they were going to go to. My first choice, because they was in elementary, was Saratoga, where they had went before, which is a very good school. And then they got placed at Minnelusa under Mr. Pacoda, which is one of the best principals as well. When I found out when my daughter was going to middle school in the 7th grade, I was worried about the middle school she had to go to because of what I have seen and what I have heard. They told her she had to go to King, my biggest worry, because of where it was located. When my children got to King, I met Ms. Buckner and Ms. Emerson. Wonderful. There has been situations with my children that I have had to deal with, very personal situations with my children, and they have been the most loving and caring staff that I could have ever asked for. And in this situation, which I don't choose to go public with because it's very personal, I couldn't have asked for a better superintendent. Sorry, I'm nervous. Administrators for my children, And the thing I love about King Science is they treat everybody equally. I go up there, pay my visits unannounced to see how my kids are doing, see how they're progressing in school. Both of my children have done so wonderful since they have been at King. They've brought their grades up. They've participated in sports. They go to the after-school program, and they love that school. They enjoy going to that school. And my son, I don't know if he's scared. He don't want to say anything. But, I made him come up here with me because he is a student there. They, don't treat anybody different. When I go in that office, I can see the care and the love that they have with these students, along with some of the teachers, Mr. Tran. It's just a wonderful school that my kids go to. And I really, don't like some of the things that I'm hearing about them, because I personally, for one, cannot believe any of that. I can't believe that. I think they are good for the community. My daughter, she's going to North High next year. Hopefully, if Mr. Haynes doesn't retire before that, she's my third child to go under Mr. Haynes, my third child to go to North High School, and she will be my third child to graduate from North High, and then he'll be my last one. So we need administrators like this that's going to keep a school to be that way, keep these kids straight, educate them, encourage them, tell them that they can do these things, because our children are our future. Our children are our future. And if we don't get this right within our schools, and people get treated differently at schools, and my children have been to a school, my older children, they're grown, they have been to a school where they were treated differently based on the color of their skin. And that I don't like, because everybody in this room, all nationalities, all races, it doesn't matter. When all of us get cut, we all bleed red. And when we have loving and caring people like the people at King, we need more people in these school systems like that, to educate these kids, to love these kids, to encourage these kids, to give them that you can do it. Somebody besides, a parent's going to tell them, like, our parents don't know what we're talking about. My kids tell me that all the time. Mom, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I do. But when they have somebody, an educator, telling them, you can do this, you got this, you can do this, encouraging them to do things, then they're going to graduate from high school, they're going to move on to college, they're going to make something of themselves and not end up in these streets like this lady was saying before. We don't want them in jail. We don't want them in these streets. And if we have people like that at these schools, then it's going to happen, because they discourage these children. But I just wanted to say I love this school, and I wish I would really keep these people at this school that deserves to be at this school, because they're making it a wonderful school to be at. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our final speaker tonight is Giza Chandler.
Good evening. My name is Giza Chandler, G-I, long I, Z-A, Chandler, C-H-A-N-D-L-E-R. I live at 3707 North 19th Street, right across the street from King Science Center. I can just echo what the two parents that have came up here to talk about King Science say. I'm a grandparent. I'm a product of the Omaha Public School System. I have 4 children that went through the Omaha Public School System. I was also an employee for the Omaha Public School System some years back. But what I can say that's going on with my grandbaby, and this is what I'm just measuring everything on, she is so excited. This is the first year that I've seen her this excited about going to school. So excited till I think she hasn't missed any school this year. I think she's been late twice. She started off in the Omaha Public Schools, and then I took her out and I put her over into the parochial school. So we're coming over from St. Cecilia's to Omaha Public Schools because of the program, especially the special ed program. And as hard as they tried at St. Cecilia's to replicate what you're doing here with special ed, they weren't able to come up to where I thought. So she is doing so well. First time I got a letter that said she is invited to an honors program for her scholastic academic abilities, and she was excited about that. She's always gotten them for sports, but she's really excited about this academic part, and to the point to where she's already kind of picked out what school she wants to go to next when she leaves King. But what we want is for King to remain, King Science Center to remain King Science Center. And I have to give credit to the administrative staff there at King Science, because I think that's where enthusiasm. She's very happy with her teachers. She comes home and she talks to me about the different, Mrs. Emerson, Mrs. Buckner, Mrs., I'm trying to think of all of them that she can come home and she just sits down and she shares with me what's going on. I'm happy for the grades that she's getting. I'm happy for the support that she's getting. And again, I'm going to emphasize, she is special education, and they're doing a fantastic job. We would not like anything to change. She's a 5th grader. So if the administration continues and the staffing doing the things that they're doing now, I can see her being a very successful 8th grader when she moves on to the next level of her education. So I have to say that I've been in the neighborhood. I live in the neighborhood. I'm right across the street. I'm able to visit, and they've been open to visits by parents, and I'm one of those that enjoy going over, hanging out. And I have to say that I'm so proud of the programs that they're accessing over there. The planetarium, fantastic. The gardening, the eubonics gardening, the zoology. These are things that I got excited about when I was over there on the tour, and she's quite excited about things that she's looking forward to in the future. So I would hope that whatever's going on, whatever the rumored, just know that this is one parent, one grandparent that has been around a while and hopefully to continue, that I'd like the things to stay the same, at least give the administration that's there a chance to fulfill whatever it is that my granddaughter is seeking. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you this evening, and I'm always proud to come up here to this building too, because I worked here for about 10 years before transferring to California and coming back, and let me tell you, OPS, you cannot beat the school system here. I lived across the street from a school that I thought they were getting ready to tear down, but this was a school kids were going to every day. So we got it good here, and you never know how good you got it until you leave. Thank you.
Right, thank you. And thank you to everyone who came to speak for public comment tonight. We will move on then to consent agenda. I think Mr. Ray is trying to get it pulled up. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda that's before us.
So move. I said it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Snow and a second by Ms. Ryan. Are there any abstentions? And Mr. Ray is not quite up. Okay. Mrs. Gotti.
I have a comment, but not an abstention. I just want to note on I-22, I just want to thank the CIA staff for, I think it's, for the great job they've done throughout this entire year of posting the document that we started working on last year. And so I encourage staff, I know it was something Ms. Williams and I put in place, but we really appreciate it. It's very informative for board members when that's there. So just want to acknowledge that. And that item also ties back to what Mr. Evans said earlier.
Indeed. All right, seeing no abstentions, roll call, please.
Gadding.
Aye.
Hallman.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Palermo.
Aye.
Perlman.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. We will move on to our information items, and our information item of the night is committees of the board update. So first up is the Budget and Audit Committee.
So we meet this in a couple days, but I did make a note on the document that was presented from the Appleseed organization, so we'll add that to the budget agenda, but we meet in a couple days.
Thank you. And yes, I was going to ask that. So I think our board was the first adopter of CEP in Nebraska. So it would be interesting to see if there are ways that we can expand that and what that would look like for us. Next up is policy.
There's no updates from the policy committee. We need to schedule our next meeting, so.
Okay. Americanism.
So I will actually start this off, and then if other members want to jump in. I was finishing up that 20-year celebration, so I came in at the end of that. But we discussed a few things. Really, I think what I got is really talking about future topics. We did talk about, so this is kind of our line items that we will be talking about this next upcoming school year. Military science, we're slated to have that conversation in September. Research study, which will be really library services and social studies kind of working and collaborating together. That is going to be November. And then cultural/ethnic studies will be our focus in February. And then in April, the elementary social studies adoption will be our focus. We did also talk about the Nebraska, I'm going to mess this up, and please excuse my month-long bronchitis going on here. So Nebraska sesquicentennial update. Did I do that right? No? They're like, And then Constitution and Citizenship Day, we also discussed that as well. But I would actually ask my colleagues, since you guys were there a little bit longer than I was, if you had anything to add to that. But we really want to thank Dr. Kerberg for being very open in this conversation and bringing this information to us. And looking forward to what Americanism is going to do in the next upcoming school year.
All right, next up is student assignment plan.
Well, we met April 25th. Several of the things that we talked about were spending the month of August. I believe that Mr. Salas and Mr. Evans will probably spend a bunch of time with the folks from STA. So we talked about the time that they would spend doing that. We also talked about in July, staff will bring back to us a recommendation on some of the specifics as far as the routing to share with us how that's going to look. We're still a little unsure, and so I guess what I would say to anyone out there, we started with 3,600 students that we really were concerned about, who hadn't made a decision, hadn't done anything specific. We're really down to about 800 kiddos right now, and I would encourage, as we talked about in our committee meeting, if you have one of those students and you have not returned phone calls and you have not responded to postcards, if you would please reach back out to staff, because what will happen here is we have finalized budgets and we finalized staffing for buildings. There will be limited choices you will be able to choose from. So we encourage everyone to reach out to staff and get back to them on where you would like your student to go. We just want to make sure that you understand whether or not you're going to get transportation and whether or not you're going to stay at the same school. So I think that's really important. But we've come from 3,600 to 800, and that's a big improvement from where we were before. The call center has been expanded, and it's my understanding in talking to Mr. Evans as well that when you call in now, there will be a phone routing so that you can menu choose whether you're calling STA or whether you're calling OPS. So I think we've made some significant improvements from where we were last year. We certainly hope that we don't have some of the issues we had last year, but staff will continue to prepare some mock routings, and as we get closer and more people have made their final decisions and we know where some of the students go, because we know that in April kids still have a chance to make some other decisions, and we also know that students may or may not stay with the school they're at. So as some of those things get finalized, we hope that administration will be able to bring us some information in July to be more specific, and I think Mr. Evans wants to add to that.
Just in addition to all the communication work, we're meeting with principals. Every principal's meeting, we're having the conversation about how it's going to impact their schools, getting questions from them, providing question and answer with them. So we're trying to really get ahead of the curve on this. We don't want some of the challenges of last August with transportation. So we're spending a lot of time, a lot of energy, and I know we're going to have an opportunity hopefully for a workshop with the board this summer even. Maybe we combine a couple of items that we want to talk about. But I think this is one still worthy of talking about if we can find the time. And I know that's difficult because sometimes the audience and the public doesn't understand that you have full-time jobs and this is a voluntary job. And we ask a lot of our school board, and I really appreciate all the time you give us. And here I am asking for one more workshop, and yet I know you've got full schedules. But if we could, I think it would be a well-deserved topic to look at STA, SAP, and how that impacts August. I think we're going to be ready, but I will tell you we are meeting on a weekly basis because it's that important. We can't have as many hiccups, even though I recognize we may have a few bumps in the road. We are working diligently, and we'd be more than happy to share with the board all the work that's been done.
And just on a note, I know that when we had our last workshop on the student assignment plan, and I can't remember when it was, some of the questions came up about are we saving money or are we not saving money on this? And so I guess I would encourage folks to go back to the financial statements that Mrs. Kanoki presented, and you'll see that we're currently in transportation $3 million under where we were last year at the same amount of time. And so I think one of the things that we saw happen was probably savings this year. Because of choices that people made, we did a good job of communicating. So we'll see more savings next year, I'm hopeful of. But I think the really great part is that we're seeing some big savings this year, which was our goal. We just didn't know if it would happen, but now that we're closing in on the end of the year, I think that we accomplished one of those goals, to be more efficient.
Thank you. And for the board and public's knowledge, I think we just double checked, and the topic of our board workshop for July 10th is going to be student assignment plan and transportation, so that we can get an update on everything that's going on well in advance of the start of the school year. Next up is legislative committees. I will handle that one. We have been, I think, officially meeting pretty much every week throughout the session. You should have all received an email this afternoon. We don't have an official report on the agenda tonight because they were scheduled to have working into the night down in Lincoln tonight. So we received a report that was emailed out to the board from our legislative team. The legislature is scheduled to adjourn on May 23rd. So we're kind of in the home stretch right now as far as finalizing bills and seeing what is going to get finished this year and what's going to be rolled over to next year. And then we will have a full wrap-up report at our second board meeting in June. Do we have any construction manager at risk updates? Okay. CBOC?
We're going to be meeting later this month, and there is a receipt of reports from Jacobs on the bond program, and I believe we're having a board workshop sometime this summer.
The first meeting in June.
First meeting in June, that we're at a point in time that the board needs to start having those discussions at the board table with recommendations from the administration on a potential second phase of the bond, and also for some excessive funding that we got as far as when we went out for bond sales. We were able to get better interest rates than was originally anticipated. So I believe at this point in time, there's about $20 million more money that, it needs to be discussed. What do we do with that money? How do we handle that? And also, again, the administration will bring recommendations along with hopefully recommendation from CBOC itself on what to do with the that excessive, or the money that exceeded what was anticipated. So I think that those discussions will start to gain more momentum as the summer comes in and we move forward.
All right, and code of conduct.
We're not meeting for this month, but our next meeting will be the 26th of June. And I think we're still planning on what we're going to talk about for that meeting, but I kind of want to discuss what the future of this committee looks like and whether we need to have a district committee versus a board committee. And then kind of looking at how we can better implement restorative practices with our code of conduct.
Okay, and speaking of the code of conduct, we will move on to our action item, J2A, which is first reading of the 17-18 student code of conduct. And Dr. Sakura.
Good evening. I was informed, and I don't know if I need to pull anything up, but I was informed that I was just going to talk through the new revisions from the last meeting that we had. And so a lot of the revisions that you'll find have to do with two key pieces that I needed to make sure that I updated. And one is to make sure that we are speaking in non-gender terms. So if it was anything that said he, she, that it got changed to the student. And so the pages that you'll see that on are page 1, page 25, page 30, page 32, page 33, page 35, 38, and 42. You'll see those highlighted in green. Those are the new things from our informational meeting last board hearing. The next one was adding /guardian to all of the parents. So it'll always say parent/guardian. And I can read those page numbers, but there's several of them. Okay, so I won't read those. So look for the green. You'll see the updated ones. And then after discussing with the OEA, which was a great conversation to be able to communicate with them, one of the things that they had recommended was to add to the SSC PAC definition is to add the piece where it talks about instruction and support, to have it be an and or. The conversation was the instruction part is more for teachers and not a para, but they are instructing when it comes to skill set and working on those behaviors. So we added the and or there. And then also on the personal cell phone and portable device guidelines for student, it talks how middle school students are to not be on their personal cell phones, but some middle schools are currently working with their students that maybe at lunchtime they can be on their cell phones. So in there's a piece that speaks to the principal's discretion. So to add the and or for principal discretion there. But otherwise, those are the only updates for the code.
Mr. Snow.
First of all, I would like to thank you for meeting with OEA. Just speaking to some people, I heard it was a very productive meeting, and Actually, I heard that they wanted you to come back more to do it more often. So thank you so much for doing that and taking our suggestions as well as others.
Absolutely. It was fun. I enjoyed myself anyway, so.
Ms. Ryan?
Mr. Ray, can you pull up the attachment, the second attachment? I just had some questions on the section that says additional considerations.
Is this what you're saying, the second?
Yeah. It's at the bottom. So one of the major things is like the implementation of cultural responsiveness. So I was just wondering if you could elaborate on what that is. Is it a mandatory like professional development, or what's the plan with that?
I think that every time that we're working with Code of Conduct and doing training, that we are intentionally being very cognizant of that and having those conversations with our administrators and our staff. So while I know that the Cultural Diversity Department and Committee are working specifically on specific trainings for that, for me, that's more specifically when I'm doing a due process workshop or working with my administrators, that I'm keeping that at the forefront of our conversation.
Have you considered doing like a separate one from the due process so that it's just focused on the cultural aspects?
So like, again, I know that like Sharif Luaru and I believe Jerry Corner are working on different pieces to that. So that's something I could definitely tag team with them and have the conversation to make sure that everything's being encompassed, yes.
Okay. And then were there any more like professional developments that you saw that we could start implementing, or besides the due process one?
Yes. Some of them are the restorative practice training. We're talking with the ideas, there's alternatives to suspension, talking about that, and different pieces that with different groups that I'm working with throughout the year, or working with like the assistant principals or SSLs and whatnot, working towards those specific conversations when it comes to Code of Conduct and interpreting the Code of Conduct and making sure that there are preventative measures in place to help support students before a consequence is provided.
And just final, like would that be something that's required of all teachers and administrators? Because it is kind of a mindset that that people have to start thinking about and kind of change. So,
and to concretely say required is difficult when you have such a large staff when you're talking OPS. We are working on turnkeys to be able to provide to building principals that they can take back into their building and be able to utilize in their building. So trying to encompass as much as you can. But me personally doing the professional development for all of the staff, I can't promise that.
Okay.
Mrs. Gadding?
So I do want to thank you for the due process workshops, because I know that that was conversations when I was board president that we had with Mr. Evans and legal staff as well, because we ran into a few bumps in the road as we went through. And so I appreciate that aspect of getting those workshops done. I think it's pretty critical to make sure that we have all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed and everything. Second thing that I guess I'm curious about that I didn't see on the additional considerations is we've added the portion in the Code of Conduct related to bus behavior. And what I would be curious to know, and we talked about some of that at the last board meeting, what I'd be curious to know is, does STA have a national director for working with districts on bus behavior? I know their counterparts do, and so, and I've had the opportunity to hear about some of that work that's done in other districts. So I guess I would like to know if they have some of that, if they have the staff in place, and if they can provide for us. And I don't know if you know the answer to the question.
And I don't, but I do know that legal is working with Travis Salas and the Transportation Department to be able to put trainings into place, and so that.
Right. So if somebody could just get us an answer as a board to know if STA has a national director for working with districts on bus behaviors, because they're more familiar with training of bus drivers, and so if they already have something in place, it would be nice to know that. I think that would be helpful for all of us. So I think that's it.
Perfect.
Ms. Williams?
so I don't really have anything for you. But as we're talking about code of conduct, I've been working on how to tie this in. So as we know, code of conduct is dealing with a lot of behaviors, and potentially a lot of our behaviors are from students that are having, challenges at home, and hunger is being one of them. And Eric Saviano, I hope you pronounced your name right, but he brought the list up here. And so I'm asking board leadership, as every single school in my sub-district, which is the highest poverty district in our district, I would like to have a more in-depth conversation about this at the board table so that we can address this, so that we are helping to prevent some of those behaviors that are caused by students, coming to school hungry or not having food. This is critically important for me. So, and I hope others of you that are in have poverty, well, we all have some poverty in our areas, but I hope that you all as well want to have this discussion as well. So thank you.
Do you want to answer which? Answer which? No? And I would agree, Ms. Williams. I think we worked very hard to get the pilot program in place, get Nebraska to change their rule for how they were counting and identifying students. And so I would agree that it's something we definitely need to look at and talk about, especially now that because of the changes, we do have many more schools where you're receiving essentially the 100% reimbursement rate for free and reduced lunch. So I agree that is something that will definitely come back up on a board agenda. Mr. Perlman?
Yeah, just briefly piggybacking off of that, is there any way we could get an update? Because it looks like there's only about 50 days before that deadline. So if we could, in preparation for more discussion, just get some background, baseline information on that.
We can definitely look at adding it. Since it's not on the agenda for this meeting, we can't really go too in-depth on that. But we can look at adding that. I think our first meeting in June is scheduled to be a workshop, but we do have our second meeting in June, which is still before that deadline.
And as I mentioned before, we'll talk about it on Wednesday because there's a lot of issues around the Nebraska Department of Education. So we'll work through those and then we'll come back with a recommendation.
Any other code of conduct discussion? You did tie it in very well, Yo. I appreciate that. Okay, seeing no other discussion, I would accept a motion to approve the first reading of the 17-18 Student Code of Conduct.
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Snow and a second by Ms. Williams to approve the first reading of the 2017-2018 Code of Conduct. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please, Mr. Ray.
Holman.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Palermo.
Aye.
Perlman.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Goding.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion passes. We do, as we've discussed in previous meetings, we do have the option to waive the second reading if anyone would like to do so. Otherwise, it will come back for second approval on our next agenda. Okay. Thank you so much. And,
Thank you.
And thank you. I do also want to echo thank you for the collaboration and working with OEA and taking the direction that the board had given you. I know that is greatly appreciated by everyone. We do have a couple of items under receipt of reports, the CBOC update and the summer school report. And Mr. Snow.
I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel, litigation, legal advice, and negotiations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Snow and a second by Ms. Ryan.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Ms. Ryan was the second.
Thank you.
It was a sad second.
Roll call, please.
America.
Aye.
Palermo.
Aye.
Perlman.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Scanlon. Aye. Snow.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Goding.
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion passes. Let me remind the board that the purpose for closed session is for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individual, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel litigation, legal advice, and negotiations. Let the record reflect that the board went into closed session at 8:01 p.m. Let the record reflect the board came out of closed session at 8:38 p.m. Let the record reflect the meeting is adjourned at 8:38 p.m.